Okay, so what we're doing now is we're going to move on to question 2. Okay, this is my second take because I knocked my stand and the camera went all fuzzy and nasty, so I had to try again. So anyways, let us start question 2 for the second time. So it says, Annexure A shows an extract from Mr. Daniel's monthly municipal statements, including the residential water and sewer tariff tables. Okay, so it says, use the information in Annexure A and answer the questions that follow. So what's important with questions like this, right, is you actually find what you're looking for. So remember with your paper, you get an addendum which actually contains all of the annexures, right? So here's Annexure A, and here's the bill that Mr. Daniel has, bills that multiply in, and this is his one that we're going to look at for this question, okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to look at various pieces here for the different questions. Remember what I said is that if we don't understand everything we're given here, that's okay, because the questions will actually help us understand the context of the question, okay? So let's go and look at the questions. So first of all, it says, write down the market value in words, right? So first of all, we need to find the market value. So we see over here, it says, the municipal valuation, and it says the market value is this amount, right? So the reason I'm writing here is from my previous video, and I've actually written the answer for us. But before I show you the answer, what's important when we do wording of numbers is that we always read from the left to the right, the same way that we do with just normal reading of sentences, right? And we basically have to separate it into its various placeholders, right? So the 944 are thousands, the 6 is hundreds, the 3 is tens, and the 0 is units, right? So we're going to write it from the 9 all the way to the 0. So, okay, important to note here, before I'm going to just cover this so you don't get distracted. So the important to note here is that you must say question 2, right? And you need to make sure, because of the instructions, that you start this on a new page, right? The reason I haven't started this on a new page is because no one is marking my work, and I'm not about that wasting paper life, right? But for your test, you need to make sure that you put question 2 on a separate page, because remember, your questions are marked by different people, and they need to separate those questions out so they can give it to the appropriate people, okay? So let's get back to the question. So we know that this is 944,630. So it would be 944. I didn't know how to spell 40. My bad, but I corrected it. 944,000, right? 630. That's how you write it. Okay, perfect. So that's that one done. So let's go on to 2.1.2. So 2.1.2 says, calculate the VAT amount for the sewer monthly charge on a stand larger than 2000 meters squared. So what's important here is that we take note of this word larger. So larger will help us indicate to us what actual category we are looking at when it comes to cost. And I'll show you what that means now. So we look over here. This is the sewer charge per month, right? And we see here that there are various different categories based on the size of the stand. When it says stand size, it's basically just the land size, right? So it's the piece of land that a house is on, and that is basically how they determine cost. So the bigger the land size, the larger the cost. Okay, so it says here, there's the larger than 2000 meters squares, which is the interval we're interested in, and it costs 836 Rand and 02 cents. Okay, what's important here is it says excluding VAT. So when I pay for my sewage bill, I would pay this amount, right, if I have a stand larger than 2000 meters squared, but then I'd have to pay VAT on top of that. So what they're asking us to calculate is the VAT amount, right, for this sewage amount that I would pay in this month for a stand size of over 2000 meters squared. So that's how much I pay for the stand of 2000, right? I'm going to say that's the amount that we pay for 2000 meters squared, but it's not 2000. Remember, it is larger, right? That's a little sign that shows us that it is larger than 2000 meters squared. So then I said 15% times that amount. VAT is 15%. They've given that to us. Just plug that into your calculator, right? And that is what you get, right? You get that amount there. What's important about this is that, remember, when you're talking about rands and cents, you can only include 2 decimal places, right? we never include more than 2 decimal places when we're talking about rands and cents. Therefore, you must round it off, right? So it would be 125.40. And that's your answer. Remember your rand sign. It gives an indication of currency. And that is your final answer. Okay. So let's now move on to question 2.1.3. So 2.1.3 says, write down the unit of measurement, okay, that you used for the meter reading, okay, or that was used for the meter reading. You didn't do it yourself, okay. So we're going to go over here and we see the meter reading, right, but they don't give us any form of actual indication of what this is, right, but we know underneath it says water usage is 12 kiloliters. Okay, but we know that the difference between these two numbers is more than 12, right? So let's just put that amount into our calculator just to see how much the difference was, how much water was used in that month. Okay, so I'm going to say 80700 minus one more zero minus 795,123 zeros, and it says that it is 12,000, right? So then we're like, okay, well, here it says 12 kiloliters, right? And that was the water usage. But the water reading is obviously not in kiloliters because it's 12,000. But what we know here, right, is we know that 1,000 liters equals 1 kiloliter, right? Therefore, 12,000 liters would equal 12 kiloliters, right? Therefore, the meter reading is in liters. Okay, that is very important, right? So that question seems actually really easy, but it actually is a little bit of a tricky one because people would just see, oh, kiloliters, just put kiloliters, right? And it's not kiloliters. It's saying the total water usage was 12 kiloliters, but it's actually measured in liters. Okay, so perfect. We've done that question. 6 marks in the bag. Let's now go on to 2.1.4. Remember again to reference correctly. I want to just ensure that you can see what I'm writing because there's no use if you cannot. 2.1.4. Okay, so it says determine the value of A. Okay, value of A. Let's just go and find A. I'm going to get a little highlighter to help us. So this is A. That's what we want to determine the value of, okay? So let's just see what A indicates. So it says monthly sewage charge based on stand size, excluding VAT. Remember I said this VAT is quite important, right? Because it's 15%. So we know that that's how much it is including, that's how much VAT you pay on that amount. But then the monthly sewage charge based on the stand size we need to figure out. But it's not too difficult because we know the stand size is 463 meters squared. So we just need to find out what interval it is in down here, right? So 463 would fall between 300 and 1,000. So it would cost us 378.95. So you just say A equals 378 Rand and 95 cents. You could also write here, if you wanted, that the stand size, right, equals 463 meters squared. And therefore, it falls into the 300 meters squared to 1,000 meters squared category. Okay. So you won't necessarily get marks for that, but it helps your marker understand, right, what you are actually alluding to. Okay. So just what you want to do with these sort of papers, right, is you want to give your marker confidence that you know what's going on. So rather put in more as opposed to less, obviously taking into account that you only have so much time for the test, so don't be writing essays where it's not necessary. But you want to give your marker the sense that you know what's going on, okay? So now we've done 2.1.4, and now we are going on to 2.1.5. Okay, so 2.1.5 we can see is for 4 marks, right? So we know that there's probably going to be quite a lot of work that we have to do there, but that's okay. Let's jump into it. So it says, use the stepped residential water tariff table to calculate the value of B, the total amount of water usage. Okay, let's go back to annexure A and find B. So B is over there. Okay, so it says total water charge excluding VAT. Okay, so we know that we're not going to take VAT into consideration into our calculations right now because it's not important, right? They've said to us, calculate the total water charge. Okay, so what's important is firstly, what is the water usage? The water usage is this 12 kiloliters, right? Which we saw in our previous question, right, was 12,000 liters, right? It's the same as 12 kiloliters. But let's go down here to the stepped residential water tariff, right? And it tells you for the first 6 kiloliters that you use, and it's important to see that it's measured in kiloliters, you pay, right? You pay 8.28 Rand per kiloliter, right? So that's per kiloliter. Then for the next from 6 to 10, you pay that much. From 10 to 15, you pay that much. And 15 to 20, you pay that much. So what we need to do, and it's quite important, is I'm going to draw like a little, so imagine that this shows all the water that you've used, right? And this is where you've used no water, and this is where you've used 12 kiloliters, right? So basically this is all in kiloliters. That's where you've used your full 12 kiloliters of water, right? So I'm going to split it into these intervals that they've given us. So I'm going to say 0 to 6. Okay, I'm not doing it to scale because that should actually be in the middle, but anyways, that's 6, and then I'm putting 10, okay? So we know for these first 6, right, we're going to pay 8.28 per kiloliter, okay? For this next set over here, from 6 to 10, we're going to pay 8.79 per kiloliter. And for these last, from 10 to 12, right, they fall into that third category, you're going to pay 15 Rand per kiloliter. Okay, so now we know where each of those kiloliters sit, but let's just actually count how many kiloliters sit in each of those categories. So we know that there's 6 over there. There's 4 in that second category. The reason I know that, 6 minus 0 is 6, 10 minus 6 is 4, and now I say 12 minus 10 is 2. And the way we can check that, right, is we then add all of these and we make sure that it equals to the number of kiloliters that we've actually used, right? So 6 plus 4 is 10, plus 2 is 12. 12 equals 12. We've done it correctly. All we need to do now is do the calculation. Right, so let's go on to our next page to do the calculation. Let me just make sure that you can see what I am doing. Okie dokes, we have our nice little explanation there. Just remember, you can, if you're moving on to a new page, it's just cautious. What I would do is to just label it again, just so that your marker knows exactly that you're still on the same question. So here we're going to say 6 times 8.28 to account for that first category. Then we're going to plus 8.79 times 4. Sorry, I'm now mixing them up, but this is basically saying 6 kiloliters times how much each kiloliter costs in that category. Then we're saying 4 kiloliters times what each kiloliter in that category costs, plus 2 kiloliters, right? There's 2 in this category, times by 15. Okay, so now we've written out our sum, which is easy enough. And now we just put it into our nice little calculator. Right, so let's just make sure you can see my calculator. Cool, you say 6 times 8.28 plus 4 times 8.79 plus 2 times 15. Okay, and that gives us 114 Rand. Okay, remember your Rand sign, 114 Rand and 84 cents. Okay, and that is your final answer. You would have got 4 marks. Let's just see if there's anything else that we need with regard to this question, or are we done here? Let's just check. We are done with this question. Okay, that is 12 marks. 12 marks in the bag. Okay, cool. Let's move on to the next section of question 2.